Welcome to Dead Man Talking. Tonight's story is another exclusive, fantastic thrill ride from the incredibly talented Edward Ed Smith. As ever, please do let us know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help build the channel and our community further. And of course, why not hashtag Team Fear. And so, with that aside, let's get into tonight's brand new series entitled The Disappearances of Deep Fork River Bottoms. Let's get straight into that. Something moves in the wilderness of the Deep Fork River Bottoms. Something malevolent, violent, mysterious, and angry. The cause is unknown. It may be man, beast, natural or unnatural, not of this earth, but it is there waiting for whoever ventures into its world. It moves silently and with the quickness of a foot or thought, or even otherworldly determination. And even as we live our daily lives, it's there, just out of sight. Or maybe we do get the occasional glimpse. We all want to feel safe and secure in our work and our homes, but it's there waiting, watching with malice in its essence. This series will make you think, shiver, turn on your lights, and above all, lock your doors, assuming that would help. And so, let's enter the river bottoms and peer into a world just outside the door of your safe and secure home, and find out what truly lies in the darkness of the unknown. Episode 1. Hunter the Hunted. Bill Taylor is much like any 30-year-old man. He has played football, been a wrestler and deer hunter, and still goes to the gym on a regular. Bill has enjoyed the center spotlight of a young man's life, from high school all the way through college, and hasn't done too bad in any department of his life. There has been a couple of times that he almost got married, but thank God he came to his senses, in his words. He is pushing 40 now, and just by luck, Bill has found a woman of his dreams. Good looking, can cook and loves to hunt too. Lacey Dawn Bentley. She is just about 30, and she don't talk about that, even in private. This morning Bill is loading up his truck to get out to the deer stands, which he and his buddy Kyle have placed in the Deep Fork River Wildlife Management Area, in the section of the woods known as Deep Fork Wildlife Refuge. The management area is about 12,000 acres of prime wooded hunting real estate. The Deep Fork River winds its way through these bottom lands with rugged and majestic grace. The bottom of Oklahoma hunting at its finest from deer, wild hog and turkey, as well as public use areas like all-terrain vehicle trails, off-road biking and hiking trails. As Bill and Kyle were getting ready to pull out at 4:30 a.m, Lacey ran out of the house and stopped them and said that she wanted to go and just set her stand and not hunt today. Sometimes it's best to do this, that way you have a different view of the lay of the land and you don't have the pressure of making the shot. And so they wait for Lacey to get her stuff ready to go, and the boys looked at each other and generally accept that they will be late to their stands. Bill pulls down the dirt road that leads to the management area, and when he turns down the access road, he noticed several does have been grazing just inside the boundary of the management area. They drive back into the area about 2 miles to the location of the first stand, which is Lacey's, and she gets out of the truck and gives Bill a kiss. Kyle teases Lacey that he'll give Big Bill a kiss when he gets to his stand. Bill rolls his eyes and Lacey says, "Just pick me up on your way out." As the guys drive away, Lacey walks over to the trail, which the stand is on, and started down the path to the stand. She wasn't much more than a couple of 100 feet to the wood line when she felt uneasy about the woods. It wasn't like she felt danger. She made note of the fact that the night sounds were diminished and not vibrant like usual. The early fall had been warmer than normal, and the mid-fall wasn't much colder. like a normal Oklahoma fall. Kyle is in his stand and settling in, getting adjusted to the hide. His stand is about 300 yards to the north of Lacey's, and Bill's stand is almost 400 yards to the north, almost to the river. The stands were located in a peninsula of land created by the Deep Fork River, and Lacey with her camera began watching her hunting lane and was very intently watching the 2 wild boar that were milling around the feeder that was about 50 yards from her stand. She turned on her walkie-talkie and was perturbed that the batteries were dead. Then she reached for her cell phone, but it was missing, and she knew she picked it up when she left this morning. She was sitting in her stand rather upset and disquieted about the morning so far, and then she heard what sounded like a ringtone. This puzzled her. When in the distance, back up the trail that she'd walked down, she saw a faint light, and then didn't. She was confused until she saw the light and heard the sound of the ringtone again. "Oh, my cell phone," she thought, and she began to get down off the stand and climb down the ladder. She reached the bottom of the ladder and walked up the trail to where she thought she saw the light. And then the phone lit up with a voicemail notification, and she said to herself, "There it is." She walked over to her phone, went to pick it up, and heard a snap of a tree limb. She stood up without picking her phone up and looked in the direction of the noise, which was towards her tree stand. Lacey picked up her phone and then started walking back to her stand when she heard a thump, like something hit the ground hard. She turned back to the noise and her cell phone hit the ground. The 2 game wardens and 6 sheriff deputies started to fan out from the tree stand where Lacey's cell phone was found. An Okmulgee detective from the sheriff's department walked up to Bill and Kyle, who were standing by Bill's truck, and said, "Okay, boys, why don't you tell me what happened? When did you drive up to the trail here, where you dropped off Lacey?" "Well, we drove up and noticed that Lacey wasn't waiting for us, which wasn't unusual because she has fallen asleep in a stand before. Kyle waited in the truck while I went on down the trail, and I had hoped to sneak up on her and maybe scare her, for a joke and a laugh. But the stand, it was empty. I thought maybe she saw me coming and was hiding. She has done that before, just playing around. But after a while of looking and calling out to her, there was no answer, and so I took out my phone and I called her. At that point, I heard a ringtone coming from those bushes, where I showed you." "Okay, and what is she to you again?" the detective said. "She's my fiancée. We were going to get married next spring," Bill said. "Wow, really, bro? I didn't know that," Kyle said. We were keeping it quiet until the right time. You're going to be the best man," Bill said. "All right, if I get to plan the bachelor's party, but wait a minute. Does that mean I'm getting married next?" Kyle said. "Not unless you knock all those old ladies down trying to catch the bouquet," Bill said. "Yeah, I knew I could use those high school football blocking skills again," Kyle remarked. "Okay, guys, you need to hang out here for a little while," the detective said. "Well, can we go look?" Bill asked. "I prefer if you stayed here at base camp," the detective said. About 30 minutes later, several more sheriffs and Oklahoma Highway Patrol officers showed up, and later the search and rescue team arrived and joined the search. A day later, search and rescue team leaders were reporting to the search captain. "Look, we have searched the entire peninsula riverbank to riverbank back to this spot," as he was pointing to the stand position at the topo map. "We have searched completely and nothing," the search captain said. "Okay, split your people. One half search the peninsula again and the other half search out around the far side of the river. Where did you say that Glenpool and Sapulpa, water search and rescue guys, were going to be here?" The search leader said, "They should be here later this afternoon." Later that evening, at dark, the base camp was lit up with mobile light towers. The search captain and the guys were standing together underneath the temporary canopy set up to provide protection to the search headquarters. The 3 20-something team members were defiantly exhausted, and Hank, the most senior of the 3, said, "Top, you aren't gonna believe this." He reaches in and pulls out a camouflage jacket with a Tweety Bird decal on the arm. "Hey, that's Lacey's," Bill said. I bought that for her last Christmas. Where did you find this, boys? The search captain exclaimed. Well, that's the weird bit. He went to the map and pointed to the location of the topo map hanging on the wall. Are you sure? The captain said with surprise. Yes, sir, Hank said. Well, she would have crossed the river. How deep is the river there? The captain asked. Probably 20 feet or better, Hank said. Going swimming in November? This don't make no sense, the captain expounded. Well, sir, try this on. The dogs picked up her scent across the river. Now, there are a few big trees across that part of the river, but the way they're laying, it would be really hard for anyone to cross them. I'm not saying it couldn't be done, but you would have to be one strong mother to use those trees. The dogs tracked her scent off down to the western top. I'm telling you, it's thicker than thick in there. We almost got lost down there in the part of the bottoms. After we found the jacket, the dogs just could or wouldn't track on the scent. It's like something changed, and it smelled real musky down there. I mean, you can smell it on the jacket. It's the damnedest thing, but the dogs sure wouldn't follow it. All right, boys. You go get some rest. You're going back in there tomorrow, the captain said. Oh, man. Okay, one of the team members with frustrated purposes commented. The next morning, about 6 a.m., the search captain called a briefing. Okay, guys and girls, I'm sending all of you to follow the search in detail this area. He had a red outlined area west of the river, and it encompassed a large area across the bottoms area almost to the river, and it crosses back to the west. Look under rocks, anything else. There's 88 of you, and that's probably not enough. Just do the best you can, and that's all I ask. Late that afternoon, as the teams were returning, one of the teams came up to the canopy and reported that they found the camera, and the game wardens wanted to inspect it. And when they asked by the search captain, they said the chip was in the camera, but the batteries were dead. Another team reported that they had found a backpack with some clothes and miscellaneous items about 100 yards from where the camera was found, but the backpack had been found out there a while. Bill stepped up and looked at the pack. It looked like it had some initials embroidered on the pack flap. NKS, maybe? It's worn pretty bad, Bill said. This for sure wasn't Lacey's. A sheriff deputy came up to the canopy with the camera and told the research captain that one of the game wardens from Oklahoma City had given it to him to return to the family. One of the search team members picked up the camera and opened a compartment that housed the chip, and it was missing. The team member was adamant the chip was in the camera. The search captain said, "Take me to this game warden." The team member and the search captain went to find the game warden, and the sheriff was given his briefing to the media. The search captain and the team member with the camera in his hand walked up to the 3 game wardens that were around their truck and asked them if they had the chip from the camera. They reacted with a sense of shock and said that they knew nothing of the chip, and the search team members interrupted the search captain and said that none of these 3 game wardens were the warden that gave him the camera too. They told him the game warden's name, and the game wardens said there is no warden by that name in our district, and if there was a game warden from another district around, it would be protocol to let them know. The team member described the person that gave him the camera too, and the game warden said that they would go look around for him. The game wardens actually seemed quite pissed. The search for Lacey continued for 4 more days, but no further evidence or information was found. The warden, which said he was from Oklahoma City District, was never found, and identity was never confirmed. And the disc, well, that was never found either. The law enforcement personnel began to press Bill and Kyle for any other information, and even took them down to the station and interviewed them separately for 8 hours. And Bill said, "You guys have wasted so much time with Kyle and me that you could have been out there looking for my girl." They went through Bill's phone and started calling his contacts and searched his email and social media accounts. The investigators began asking oddball questions, trying to trip him up, and Kyle, who was single, had, well, all kinds of pics of ladies in various states of dress and repose. It caused a lot of distress and embarrassment that was really not needed, but the 2 were eventually cleared. The search was also ended after about the 10th day, and Lacey was added to the missing persons list. The day Bill got the notification that she had been added, Bill, Kyle, and Bill's younger brother were at the local One Fire Casino sports bar. Bill and Kyle were 4 beers and 5 shots into it and feeling it. Bill's brother Donnie was nursing a beer knowing he was the one driving this mess home. I don't understand it. She would have never crossed that creek, and I don't know what would have possessed her to do that, Bill said. Hey, look, when I heard that they found the coat, I went out there, and I seen these trees that were down across the river. It's real narrow in that spot, bank to bank, and these trees were down and across the river, so their trunks were really close with each other. But at the angle they were laying at, I don't see how she would have gotten across. I mean, she would have to have been a monkey, Donnie explained and was trying to comfort his brother. Hey brothers, we need to get out of here. They're closing up the bar, Kyle said. As they were leaving, Bill stumbled by a bulletin board and he knocked off a flyer. He picked it up and it was about a missing man about 22 years of age that went missing in the Deep Fork Wildlife Refuge about 9 months ago. He looked at the flyer with buzzed eyes and noted that his name was Nicholas Kelly Stevens. He put it back on a board and walked to the truck. After the boys dropped off Kyle at his house, they drove on to Bill's house and Donnie said that he would call his wife and tell her that he would be staying at Bill's tonight. It's a brother thing now. The night brought a waterfall of tears, emotions that men like Donnie and Bill only discussed between themselves and God, and the grief that only brothers knew how to handle for each other. The gut-wrenching night waned and the sun broke across the Oklahoma fall sky, and at about 1 p.m, Bill woke up and jabbed his brother Donnie, who had been crashed out beside him. What? Donnie murmured. I figured out what caught my attention with that other missing guy. I remember now. You know, Nick Kelly Simmons. I think that was it, Bill said with excitement. What are you talking about? Donnie shouted. The backpack, Bill yelled. What backpack, Bubba? Jeez, my brain is still asleep, bro, said Donnie. Get up. We gotta go back to the casino, Bill ordered. Donnie got dressed and was cussing as they got in the truck and they drove to the casino. Bill walked in and looked at the board and the flyer wasn't there. Oh shit, he exclaimed. They looked at another board and nothing, and so Bill said, let's check the boards at the convenience stores. And they came up empty with the first 6, and then they stopped at the Okmulgee Indian Community Smoke Shop on the extreme south end of town, and lo and behold, there was the flyer, and Bill took a picture with his phone. And getting back in the truck, Bill said, Donnie, hold on, let's just sit here for a while. I want to call this number. Bill dialed and put it on speakerphone, and a man answered. Hello, I'm Bill Taylor. You don't know me, but... Actually, I do know you. You're that guy whose girlfriend went missing down on the river bottoms, the man answered. Yeah, Bill said, mumbling. It's been on the news and I have been keeping up, the man informed Bill. I wanted you to know that I believe we found your son's backpack. Did he have his initials on it? Bill said. The man on the phone explained. Yeah, I hate to say it, but son, she's gone. Just like my boy, just like all these others. After about the first 2 months of thinking that he was gonna walk back through the door, I started asking around, doing some digging of my own. Something is down there. Something is in them bottoms. I don't know what it is, but it's there. And I think it's eating people. Don't take my word for it. Do your own digging. Thanks for letting me know. Look, if you go down there, don't go alone. Boy, don't go alone. Crying could then be heard on the other end, and then the line went dead. Whew, that's some heavy shit. What do you make of that? Said Kyle. I don't know, Bill said questioningly. A hard thump on the ground. Lacey turned, and in the dark shadows cast by the sun through the thick canopy of the trees, she could see an outline of something standing by the trunk of a large tree, some 60 yards away from her. It was tall, about 7 feet, and it seemed to be thicker up top and skinnier at the bottom. The arms were long down to its knees, and it just seemed to stand there, almost swaying back and forth. The face was shrouded by hair that hung down from the forehead and over its eyes, and the eyes would glow with the glint of shimmers of light that sprayed through the canopy that was being moved by the breeze. And then it started stepping towards her. She started to step backwards, and then it stepped quicker, and she could see that it was covered in hair over the extent of its body, black to a reddish-black hair. Her level of fear increased as certain facial features became apparent, and she was disturbed by the fact that whatever it was looked close to being human in its face, but primal, something that would be at home in the paleo environment of 20,000 years ago. She was mesmerized by its gaze, and then she heard it grunt, and this shook her out of her trance. She turned and started running. She could hear it running behind her. She sprinted like she would when she would go on her jogs through the park. She just turned her head, and she was running so she could see it, and it was about 10 yards behind her. Panic had now set in, and she was kicking her stride harder than she ever had, and it was still closing in on her. She turned again, and it was so close she could see the scars on its face. She turned her head back to the front, and her forward progress was stopped by a mass that was solid and dense, and it felt like something hit her head, and she fell as consciousness left her body. She woke in a haze over her mind, as if she felt herself being carried and held by powerful arms and hands. She almost could focus as she could see water below her, and then she was over land again. The smell, it made her vomit, and she could not conquer the haze, and she felt limp again. And she was jolted awake by what felt like her body hitting the ground, and she laid there motionless as she heard grunts, gurgles and chirps, and almost a whoop type howls and sounds of large, small and in-between sized entities. She opened her eyes, and even the dirt and debris in them, she could see that there were about 9 to 10 forms and shapes in her field of view of all sizes and perceived ages. She was laid on the outer edge of a cleared area, which was compacted dirt, and what she could see was a tangle of limbs and tree twigs above her, except in the centre of the area, where there seemed to be an opening in the tangle. There was areas in the clearing that looked like piles of twigs and boughs of cedar were piled in many different spots. It didn't feel right for her to be here. She felt uneasy, and this place reeked of rotten and spoiled meat. Although she didn't see anything like that, she could not clear it from her nose. She began to move and claw her way to the edge of the clearing, and worked her way through the matting of the undergrowth. And she was maybe 50 feet inside the tangle when she came to the edge of what looked like a pile of white sticks. In the low light of the area, she grabbed one of the sticks and pulled it closer, and it seemed to be attached to another stick, and then she realized that she was holding on to a bone that was attached to another bone with ligaments and tendons. It was the leg of a deer. She saw skulls of wild pigs and deer and turkey bones, and then there was something in the pile on the other side of this clearing which looked different. It looked like there was another pile of white sticks. She dragged and crawled her way towards it, and the sticks looked larger than the others. As she got closer, this pile was smaller, but there still was over several hundred, and there she saw it, a femur bone with a metal ball on it. She froze as she began to realize what she was holding. "Oh my God, no, they're eating people," she said to herself. As fear gripped her like a vice, she breathed in the putrid air, trying to calm herself down from the swelling panic rising inside of her. "I have to get out of here," she said to herself in an attempt to calm her alarm and horror. She began to climb through the matted undergrowth of the clearing area, and after about 80 feet, she'd seen the sunlight begin to fill the edge of the undergrowth that she was crawling through. "Oh, please be a way out," she said under her breath. She crawled even closer to the edge, and she could see woods that, while there was undergrowth, it was nowhere near as dense and matted as what she was currently in, and she could stand and get on her feet and cover some ground. She climbed out of the matted undergrowth and stood up for the first time. She didn't know which way to run, and she decided to run in a direction that seemed right, and she took off. She was about 1,000 feet from where she'd started, and then something stepped out in front of her path. It was a young one of these things, maybe the size of a 12-year-old. It looked with curiosity and shyness, and she slowed her pace and walked past it while both were looking at each other. She didn't feel threatened, but she knew she needed a whole lot more distance from these things. Lacey continued to run, and covering about 500 more feet, and she was rounding a turn in the trail. As it moved around a large tree trunk, when she came face to face with a 7-foot defiantly male sentry. The face of the beast turned from one of surprise and shock to one of anger and dominance. She screamed and moved away from the beast as she was grabbed from behind, and she felt his hand on her head. When it snapped her neck, she was still of her mind, and she was being dragged by her foot back to the nest. She could not feel her body, but she was still conscious. She saw the roof of the matted undergrowth clearing and a hole that was in the matting of the roof. An adolescent, probably 15 or 16, walked over and was looking at her with a dodging approach. And it smelled her, and with one motion it gripped her arm and wrenched it from her body. She could feel the pressure of the act, but no pain. She could feel her head getting dizzy from the blood loss, and she couldn't even make a noise. It was just the awareness of 2 more young ones approaching with hunger in their eyes. She thought of Bill and the life they were to have together, as her state of being dissolved into a feast of primal purpose. Is our fear of the unknown so commanding that we cannot comprehend that there are things that we do not understand, that cause us to blindly allow the dismissal of the evidence of their existence? Or do we choose to allow our perceived superiority to supersede their dominance? The North American Wood Ape Conservancy developed and implemented a novel technique for attaching radio telemetry devices without first capturing, manually tagging, and then releasing their target species. One should read the paper on Tag 7. It might change your mind. But here, in the bottoms of the Deep Fork River, something is feeding. On the next episode of the Disappearances of Deep Fork River Bottoms, we explore the theory of matter and energy based on the concept of quanta, especially quantum mechanics and the monsters that dwell there. Until next time, bon appetit. Wow. What an absolutely awesome, chest-pounding, moving and very, very chilling start to a series there from the wonderful mind of Ed Smith. I don't know about you guys, but with the map combined to relate back with each episode, it just makes it all the more special, all the more intriguing. And I believe, Ed, you're on to another winner here, my friend. As ever though, guys and girls, please do let us know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help build the channel and our community further. And why not hashtag Team Fear? And so, I hope you're all well and happy, had a fantastic day with friends or family. But above all, remember, be safe, not sorry.